Okay, so the priority group that we've chosen is obesity population, and the environment is Beckett Park.
Why is it important to be physically active? Is it important to be physically active because of how it can improve your social, mental and physical well-being? Being physically active can reduce the risk of getting cardiovascular diseases, for example, myocardial infarction, stroke, cancer and hypertension. Health benefits from resistance training reduces insulin resistance, improves metabolic control and decreased adiposity have also been associated with enhanced working memory. Unfit individuals had 2 to 3 times the risk of mortality across levels of BMI. Overweight and obese fit individuals had 25% and 42% increased mortality risk, respectively, compared to a normal weight fit individual.
So why is it important to be physically active? So the social reasons why it's important to be physically active. There are many reasons, and a few of them are: it can help improve people's confidence in a social environment. It can help motivate people, as sometimes being in a social setting rather than private can help them do better, and it can help people make friends and be more social in general. And it also helps people get out of the house a bit more and feel more confident within themselves. And some mental reasons are that studies have shown that being physically active can help improve mental health and prevent a lot of mental health issues such as depression, anxiety, stress, and it can also help reduce stress. Studies have shown that being outside for just 5 minutes doing low impact activities such as walking can help reduce people's stress.
Definitions. Physical activity is any bodily movement produced by skeletal muscles that result in energy expenditure. Physical inactivity is participate in less than 30 minutes of moderate intensity physically active per week. Sedentary behaviours has previously been characterised as under 1.5 metabolic equivalents, which is METs. Exercise is planned, structured and repeated behaviour aimed to maintain or improve components of physical fitness. Sport is a subcomponent of physical activity whereby the activity is rule governed, structured and competitive, and involves gross motor control movement characterised by physical strategy, prowess and chance. Longevity is a long life or the length of a person's life. Mortality is a salient is the awareness by an individual that his or her death is an activity on the risk of diseases. Being in moderately vigorous sport activity was associated with a 23% lower risk of death than not taking part in moderate to vigorous sports. Greater leisure time activity was associated with reduced risk of breast cancer after adjustments of body mass due to taking part in the physical activity. The effectiveness of regular physical activity can reduce the risk of several chronic diseases like cardiovascular disease like diabetes, type 2, cancer, hypertension, obesity, depression, osteoporosis and premature death.
Okay, firstly I'm going to talk about the physical activity guidelines for adults from the age 19 to 64 for the UK. So adults should aim to be active daily. So for example, they should be doing around 150 minutes of moderate intensity activity in bouts of 10 minutes or more. One way to approach this is to do maybe like 30 minutes of this kind of activity 5 days a week. Alternatively, a comparable benefit can be achieved through 75 minutes of more intense activity, so vigorous intensity activity spread across the week, or combinations of moderate and vigorous intensity activity. So adults should also try and undertake physical activity in terms of improving their muscular strength for at least 2 days a week. So the physical activity that meets the guidelines. So an example, moderate intensity physical activity, it will cause the person to get warmer and breathe harder and their heart start to beat faster. But they should still be able to carry on a conversation, so for example like brisk walking in a park or like cycling. So vigorous intensity activity is a lot more demanding, as it will cause an adult to get a lot warmer and breathe much harder as their heart beats rapidly, making it more difficult to carry on a conversation. So for example like running, sports such as swimming competitively, or like a competitive football match. So in order to understand terminology of sedentary behaviour, I'm going to give an example. So examples of sedentary behaviour include watching TV, computer use, so basically not putting your body any physical demands. So you want to try and minimise sedentary behaviour because it can have a lot of bad side effects. So for example, you should reduce your time spending watching TV and take regular breaks at work. Or breaking up your sedentary time can be easily done by, instead of just like taking the car to work, you should walk instead. The consequence of sedentary behaviour is obesity. Sedentary behaviour can lead to a number of health-related problems that are either physical or psychological. One negative effect of being sedentary is obese, and that's when you have like BMI of over 30, and this can be calculated by doing an adult's weight in kilograms divided by their height in metres squared. So concept of sedentary behaviour is obesity, and the effect of being obese, it can lead to type 2 diabetes, which can lead to retinopathy. So this can like cause blindness, and if left diagnosed and untreated. So type 2 diabetes can lead to retinopathy because it causes blood sugar levels.
Sedentary behaviour. There's a lot of psychological effects of being sedentary, which can be things such as depression as a result of being overweight and obese. These health-related problems can also have a negative impact on society. It's estimated that NHS spends £5.1 billion a year on overweight and obese-related issues, and other people with obesity can struggle with self-confidence and self-esteem issues, which can make them worse. So what are the benefits of being active on a daily basis? So it can reduce the risk of having a range of diseases, for example, coronary heart disease, stroke or type 2 diabetes. It helps to maintain a healthy weight, helps to maintain the ability to perform everyday tasks with ease, it improves on self-esteem, and it reduces symptoms of depression and anxiety.
So to identify our priority group, which is the obese population, the government have set up the BMI test. So the indicator of this is anyone that scores in between the range of 30 to 39. It's in relevance to their height as well as their body mass, not their body composition. So someone could carry a lot of muscle mass, and that might affect their score. The tactic behind this is to kind of scare the general population. So it's not aimed towards athletes. It's just to give anyone that's going to see their GP a shock into potentially losing weight if they do reach this category. And then a fact that we've got is 37.7% of adults in the US are considered obese according to Thorne. So that's easily over a quarter there, if not a third of the population that are obese. So 1 in 3 people would be obese.
More people are classed as obese. It's such a big concern for the English government and the health service. Also, the population should be hitting recommended guidelines that we believe are choosing a quarter of the population, the obese priority group that we've chosen. We can help recommendations and encouragement of physical activity. We would like to target obesity as it has the biggest link to heart disease and hypertensive blood pressure because of their lack of physical activity. Because their physical stature, an obese individual is very likely to always be sedentary and partake in none to very little physical activity, because keeping homeostasis within their body would be much more difficult to higher heart rate, higher blood pressure and a higher body composition. This would stress their body much more than the average person, and we believe that it only takes a few small steps so people get on the right track.
So sedentary behaviours are the type of behaviours that can be a factor to obesity in individuals. An example of this would be an office job. So for up to 8-hour bouts a day, they'd be sat at a computer doing minimal amounts of activity and stressing their body, and that's on top of sleeping. So this would ultimately cause them to gain weight as they are not burning off enough energy through their energy expenditure. So that means hitting your daily calorie intake, but then also exceeding that by burning it off through activity that you partake in.
The location we've chosen is Leeds Beckett Park. The reason for this is because it's got good accessibility to everyone. It has free entry into the public area. There's transport from buses and also Ubers if necessary. You can get to the park and exercise very easily. Leeds Beckett Park is also an outside gym, and there's different types of equipment that everyone can use. There also can have good weather conditions to motivate people to come if the weather is nice. It's also a quiet area, so people who have bad self-esteem or low confidence may want to come and not feel judged by people in the gym. In addition to the gym equipment, there are also tennis courts, so people can come and use the courts and play with someone instead of running or using equipment on their own if they want to mix things up.
Nailed it.
Did not.
Right, carry on.
Some of the facilitators associated to obesity are the transport systems throughout Leeds and different facilities for physical activity to take place in. There are regular buses and Ubers at all times that have constant transport to different facilities available in Leeds. These are also at a cheap price, so do not act as a barrier against people who have not a lot of money. Examples of the available facilities are plentiful gyms and large parks with a big open space. These both allow for a large, safe environment for obese people to participate in physical activity. It also has a outdoor gym, which is free for everyone to use and easily accessible. It can also act as an area for obese people to work out without the pressure of going to a gym that they may not like using due to lack of confidence. The barriers that are in place for people that are obese when participating in physical activity consist of low self-esteem and low confidence level. This can lead them to not want to go out into public areas and exercise or go into gyms. Another barrier that affects obese people is risk of injury, such as when participating in higher intensity exercise and hard surfaces. This can result in joint injury. With obesity, they will also become fatigued more quickly, so work at a higher effort level, which causes sweating. So people in unsheltered areas may become too hot and have a high risk of dehydration, so should be careful when working.
Environment, pre-agricultural period, this took place 10,000 years ago. This is the time where people hunted for the food and gathered it. There was a high physical activity, so a lot of running around for your food. There were low-fat diets, and this meant that obesity was rare. Agricultural period, this was the 19th century. There was a high physical activity, but again there was relatively low-fat diets. The industrial period, took place from the 1800s to the 1945. There was poor diet, so not enough nutrients, poor pH measures in the water. This led to illness, and there was also poor medical supplies, which led to early death and illness and diseases which couldn't be treated because of the lack of medical supplies. Nuclear and technological period, this was 1945 and onwards. At this time there was medical advancements, but things like smoking had become popular, which led to premature death, so things like cancer, and there was also low physical activity due to working for a living and bad diet. As we've evolved in today's world, tasks are easier, so people have become a lot more lazy, so there was a higher risk of becoming obese. Urbanisation and health, in the next 30 years 70% of the globe will live in cities. This meaning there are a lot of, can I start that bit again?
Yeah. Just go from urbanisation and health.
Urbanisation and health. In the next 30 years, a study showed that 70% of the globe will live in cities. This means there will be a higher risk of obesity levels. Living in the city can lead to typical risks such as high blood pressure and cardiovascular disease. Right, advantages of green exercise. Green exercise, this is the synergistic health benefits derived from being active in green environments or natural places. So the benefits of training in these environments are increased positive mindset, reduces in fatigue of the mind, increasing concentration, and reduces tendency for aggressive behaviour. Psychological benefits of exercising and why it changes behaviours. Cognitive functioning, this is how our brain reacts with every... Killing that, I'll start again. Bring it back. Psychological benefits of exercising and why it changes behaviours. Cognitive functioning, this is how our brain reacts with usual everyday tasks. Some people have better cognitive functioning than others. For example, this may be making breakfast in the morning and remembering where the different cooking materials are, and some have better cognitive functioning than others. This can help people want to be more physically active, as it can change people's views towards exercise, which is beneficial to overweight and obese people because they can improve their cognitive function. they will be able to change their mindset and make them want to be more physically active.